Hello and welcome to Lesson 10 of National 5 Computing Science Web Design and Development. Today we're going to look at selectors, classes and IDs. In the previous video we learned how to apply styles inside the head of your HTML document, which means you can apply the same style to multiple items with a single declaration. So here we've got the H2, but because we have multiple H2s, it applies to all the H2s in the document. But a problem we've come up against is that when I styled my divs, it applies to every div, so they're always going to have the same style. But if I want this Chihuahua, for example, to have a green background color, well, if I try and change the background color to green, it changes all of the divs. So today we're going to look at selectors, classes and IDs so we can individually select one element. So first of all, selectors. What do we mean by selectors? This is a selector. This is a selector. Both of these are selectors. So this is how we tell the style to select the element that we want to apply the style to. So we have selected the body, and applying this style will change every body element in our document. Now there is only one body, there is only one H1, there are two H2s and two divs, so they get selected and they get the styles applied to them accordingly. So these are selectors. But there are different types of selector as well. So these are just standard selectors where we're selecting a standard HTML element, but we can create our own classes and IDs. Take a look at this. So if I go to this first div, I'm going to give it a new class. And I just type the word class equals and in the quotes, so this is inside the opening div tag, I give it the name that I just make up myself. I want this to be, let's just call it blue background. And using this class, I can apply a style that overwrites any other previous style. So if I have blue background class on a div, although all divs get a background color of green, if I apply a style to the class blue background and make it a blue background instead, it will overwrite the previous style. So let me show you. How you select a class is by doing dot and then blue background. And here we can say background color. Let's just make it light blue because that's what it was before. If I save this and refresh, this one gets a light blue background. Now the reason for that is, although it's a div and it should have a green background color, as indicated here, the class takes priority. So any class that you apply or any styles you apply to something with a class, the class gets priority first. So it's almost like it does style the div green, but then it takes a look at the class and then it styles that light blue instead. Now classes, they can be applied to any element, and you can have multiple elements with the same class. For example, I'll make this H2 have a background color of light blue. So now this heading 2 has a light blue background color, and we could apply the class to this P tag as well. So now this has a light blue background color. But the other type of selector that I mentioned is the ID. So I can go to my H1, I could type ID equals double quotes and give it an ID. My heading, I can just make this up myself, any word that I want. I could call it this if I like. I'd rather not though. And to select an ID, we use the hash my heading, and I can give this a color. Let's just make it red. Save this, refresh, and we have selected the item that has the ID of my heading. Now the key difference, you might be thinking, well, aren't classes and IDs, aren't they identical? IDs and classes, they look identical. The main difference is that an ID should only appear once. So this heading, my heading ID, I should not have it anywhere else in my entire document. I mean, technically it will work. See how it works? But really you should never have the same ID appearing more than one time. If you do need to apply a style multiple times, that's what the class is for. Now you might be wondering, why should we only ever have one ID appearing in a document and not multiple times? It's for JavaScript reasons. Later on, you will learn a tiny bit of JavaScript, but you don't need to actually implement any. But in order to identify an element uniquely, it needs an ID in order for you to get a single element. Anyway, what we've learned today, classes and IDs. Hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.